In this activity, we're going to create a function that computes an overdue fee, and then we're going to create a trigger that executes automatically when an item is returned. So I've copied the instructions over here. We're going to be using the purple box database, and the first thing we want to do is drop this, drop the function if it exists. And I'm going to call the function compute overdue. And then and we want this to execute before we write the function, so we put a go there to make sure that it executes every time. And now we want to create the function. So we just do the create function. And we still use that same name, compute overdue. And then we put the parameters. And this one has two parameters. If we look up here, we have return date and rental date. So those are the two parameters. And remember, with parameters, we make them variables by giving them an @ sign, and we need to specify the type, and this is of type date. Same with return date. Start it with the @ sign and give it the type of date. And then with the function, we need to specify what it returns. And we do that just with the keyword returns. And we specify what is it going to return. Well, it's going to return an overdue fee, and this is going to be a small money. And that will match our database that we need that for, our database value. All right, and then we do as, and with functions, you always have the begin and end to identify the beginning and the end of the function. So if we have two dates, then we can determine the difference between them. And the way that we do that is with a function called DATEDIFF. All right, and that's an SQL Server or a T-SQL function, and it expects 3 parameters. You can do the difference, how many months, how many days, how many hours. So there's lots of different units that you can say, what's the difference between these two, and we're going to do the difference of a day. So we want to know how many days between the rental date and the return date. And so that's exactly what we do. We give it the beginning date at the beginning. So there, in our case, this is the rental date, and then the return date. So this is a function that we can call, and it will return an integer that is the number of days between the rental date and the return date. So we want to store that value because we're going to use it in a computation. So I'm going to declare a variable for that. And it's just going to be the number of days. And this is going to be of type int. And then I can set the number of days. Set days equal to that date difference.